the last time we met, it was in our little studio, but we're in our big studio today with the nice blue roof, the good lighting and the great air conditioning, and
Not too sure about that in LA, actually. In LA, well, whatever, it's good.
yeah, there's no humidity. And it was a little tense because we didn't know each other, and it was in a studio, but this is far more relaxed, and you're in LA, and the subject you chose is morality. Now, let me just establish something. Are you an atheist? Last time I asked you that question, there was a little bit of hesitation, like you were kind of lukewarm or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a great fan of the term because it's describing what you're not what you are. And so I would probably go for the term rationalist, but people know what you mean when you say I'm an atheist. So to all intents and purposes, yes, I'm an atheist, but I would prefer rationalist or something along those.
Okay, as an atheist, how do you govern your own morality? How do you choose your moral standard?
Well, I mean, there are various levels to it. So, for instance, if someone were to ask you, how do you choose what gas you breathe to live? You obviously have very little choice over this. In fact, almost no choice. You need a certain degree of oxygen to live. Now, you do have some control over these things, the rates that you breathe and so forth, but some of it is innate, and some of it you have a degree of choice over.
So you say innate, that means you go by your conscience?
Innate means that it is programmed into you.
Conscience?
If you want to call it conscience, yes.
You know what the word conscience means?
It's a combination of the word con and science, which means with knowledge.
So we all have an inbuilt knowledge of right and wrong. So would you say murder...
Right and wrong is where it gets fuzzy. I mean, I would describe right and wrong is there is what is beneficial for the individual and what is beneficial for the society.
So that's how you govern whether something's right or wrong. Is murder wrong?
Murder is a very, very easy one because for the large part that's programmed into virtually every social species. So you cannot have a society where you kill more than one person before reproduction age, otherwise the species is extinct. You can't do it. It's but for instance, let's take something a little more fuzzy. Theft.
Well, let's stay with murder for a minute because I want to talk about Nazi Germany. What Hitler did, he got 13 million. He was voted in 13 million. Oh boy, we're doing an interview, sir. I'm sorry. So if you could ask someone else, it'd be great. I don't know where the courts are. Thank you. Goodness me.
We'll cut that bit out. You might, we'll agree to cut that bit out.
No, I think it's pretty appropriate. He's asking where the courts are when we're talking about right and wrong and murder. So Hitler had 13 million votes. What he did was legal in Germany. So was mass murder wrong in Germany?
Well, I mean, this is where it comes down to this very tough decision of what is beneficial for society and what is beneficial for the individuals. I mean, let me just say, for instance, what Hitler did couldn't have been enabled without science. It was the implementation of science in the form of technology that enabled him to do what he did. But, so, now, if I were to give you the choice of, say, for instance, let's include all of World War II as the burden and the responsibility of science. So that's 50 million dead, 12 in the genocide. And then you weigh that off against how many have been fed by science. I'm just going to give the Haber process, which produces the fertilizer that feeds about 1 in 3 people on the planet. So on one side you've got the cost, which is it'll kill 50 million people. And on the other side you've got the payoff, which it'll save 2 billion.
No, it won't, because you've got 50 million in your workforce. You've got 50 million scientists, people who can be scientists and inventive people. Someone could have invented a food to feed the whole of humanity, but they've been killed off.
But this cuts to the nub of the moral question. How do you know what is right and what isn't?
I know what's right and wrong because I've got moral absolutes.
Okay, in which case tell me, which was the right decision? I give you the power to either save 50 million or save 2 billion. If you save the 2 billion, you're going to kill 50 million people.
I can't follow your logic.
So, if I give you the opportunity to not discover the science of say for instance in this case nitrogen, it's the same science that creates the weapons that also feeds the people, right? If I give you the choice to, a moral choice now, if you decide to discover that science, it'll kill 50 million people, but it'll save 2 billion. And on the other side, you can choose to not discover it. You will save those 50 million, but 2 billion will starve to death. What's the moral choice?
You can't make a choice like that because it's so nebulous. It's just a little...
For the sake of argument, it is a clear choice.
Well, you never kill.
Yes. You are never directly... You never kill any of these people. Hitler never killed anyone, right? He implemented methods that did. But, I mean, let's distill this down to the very core of the moral decision. And that's the costs for the individual and the costs for society. So
it comes back to money and power?
Not money and power. It comes down to who benefits, what are the costs, and what are the benefits.
So what's the ever society that instigates rape because it's a great benefit to men? It's great benefit. Then is that okay?
If it in the hypothetical situation, you can make up things like that. In our society, it is deemed immoral.
What about euthanasia?
Again, it's deemed immoral because...
What do you think about it?
I think it's wrong.
You think it's wrong?
Yeah. But if I were to give you the same extrapolation, that if you don't have euthanasia, if you don't euthanize 50 million people, and you know for certain that'll cost 2 billion lives in the long run, what is the right decision? Are you willing to... Right? And what I'm doing here is there are two parts of your brain that cover interactions with others. There is the logistical side, which is the part that I'm engaging now. Right? This is very cold, and there are many examples like it. The U.S. entry into World War II. America knew that Stalin was a butcher. They didn't know Hitler was at the time. They knew Stalin was a butcher, but they were happy to play along with Stalin because he was going to save American lives. He was going to promote Western ideals. Well, he wasn't, but it would solidify Western ideals, right? And for that, they were willing to play ball with a mass murderer of the level of Hitler. And these are the logistical decisions. It's killing millions to save billions.
Okay, I've got a scenario for you.
But then there is the emotional side of things. If I were to ask you, could you actually go up to those and look into the faces of those 50 million and look into their eyes and say, sorry, but you're acceptable loss? Now you're engaging a different part of your brain. And we know this because we actually put people in MRI machines and ask them these questions, and there's the emotional side that actually makes the decisions with respect to others, and the logistical side. If you ask people logistical questions, saving 50 million or saving 50 billion, it's a simple choice, right? You ask yourself, is it okay if we harvest that guy for organs? And so we're killing one guy to save 5, and it's interacting with a different portion of your brain.
Let me see if I can get to your brain here. It's 1933. You've got Adolf Hitler in your sights. Yeah. Do you take him out? You know that you're going to save 12 million.
Again, this is would I do it? Let me answer the question first. I honestly don't know, because it's one of those things. Those 12 million people,
why would you hesitate? You're going to save 12 million with one movement of your finger.
Really? But if you didn't have that genocide is instrumental in our history. If we didn't have those 12 million dead, would we have this? We could have set the groundwork for an even bigger genocide. It was the lesson that we learned.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
You can't justify the murder of 12 million people by saying we've got to let Hitler do it because good's going to come. It's great for society.
But you don't know the converse is true either.
That's right, but you know that if you take him out, you're going to save 12 million people. You're going to save Jewish mothers and fathers and their children a terrible death with one movement of your finger. Why would you hesitate? So, okay, you don't know if you'd do it. Let me take you back another 30 years before that.
But would you do it?
I'm not asking the question of myself. I'm asking you for the moment. I'll tell you in a moment.
Sure.
It's 30 years earlier. You've got Adolf Hitler's mother in your sight. She's pregnant with Adolf. Would you take her out?
Okay, so now you're asking, would I kill Adolf and an innocent person? Well, again, seeing as I didn't know for the first one, I think it's fair to say that I'm not sure about. The second one, it's
for the good of the species.
It's the cost to the individual. I mean, this is essentially asking the same logistical question of, is it okay if we harvest one guy for organs to save 10 people? Or if we have one guy who has the cure for AIDS in his blood, but we can only get it.
I can't pin you down on whether or not you would save 12 million people, and because of the fact you think that his killing of the 12 million could, or the 50 million, when you bring everyone who died in the war, could be doing good for society, good for humanity.
I think that it's an impossible question to answer. I mean, on a very simple level, yeah, he killed 50 million people. If you kill him, it's fairly likely that wouldn't happen. 15 million people. It's likely that wouldn't happen. But if you've...
It wouldn't happen. You'd save their lives.
Oh...
Hitler would not be around. One little movement of your finger.
Well, I mean, societies are... less predictable than that, in that if it wasn't Germany after the Depression was ripe for the sort of thing that Hitler did.
Yes.
Right?
He was a savior to Germany.
So, yeah, and he built the autobahns and he put Germany back on the right track.
Full employment, etc. Yeah, he did a lot of good before he showed his true colours.
And went off the deep end. And in that sense, if it wasn't him, would it have just been somebody else? But ultimately, we wouldn't have the attitude. Genocide wouldn't be the dirty word that it is now. That dirt on the word was actually bought with the lives of the people in the concentration camps.
Well, not really be a genocide in the Bible.
Yeah, and if you ask people about genocide in the Bible, no one really cares about it. I mean, genocide wasn't a dirty word in the way that it is since we actually had mechanical genocide, since we saw what would happen when you put the technology that mankind has available to it to the systematic extermination of people. I mean, all the time that it's people killing people, there's a limit to the numbers that can actually happen. It was the technology that enabled to do it on a mechanical scale that really put this... that really did show people what they were like, what they were capable of if the wrong people get into power.
So let me see if I can pin you down. So are you saying murder is right or wrong? Are you trying to justify murder?
Well, can you make a distinction between murder and killing someone?
No.
So is killing someone immoral?
No, if someone's going to rape my wife, he's running at her with a knife to cut her throat, rape her and cut her throat, I would shoot him in the leg and move up slowly. So there's nothing wrong with protecting yourself. So back to the question, is murder right or wrong? Can you say it's absolutely wrong to murder someone, or you say it's could be good for the good of society?
I would go for exactly the answer that you gave, which is it's contingent. It's contingent on the circumstances.
No, murder is always wrong.
You just said you would kill someone.
Self-defense. Defending my family.
But earlier you said that killing someone is killing someone.
No, there's a difference between murder and self-defense, defending a family. So I would defend my family and I kill someone who's going to kill my wife. That's my own conviction. So you're not going to say murder is right or wrong. You won't say murder is wrong. You know why you won't say it? Because if you say there's absolute morality, then you're in trouble, because I'm going to say, where do you get that from?
Well, it's innate to your...
We'll put up with it.
We'll put up with that. Okay. So, absolute morality.
Yeah, so I'm trying to pin you down on absolute morality. Would you admit there are things that are absolutely wrong?
There are things that will result... There are things that prohibit you in terms of behavior from having a stable population. For instance, if you kill all of your children at birth, obviously the species can't propagate. So that's why we never see species that kill their babies at birth, or at least all of them.
Some do.
They may eat the odd one, but I mean, again, in many ways, if people did that, would that be morally acceptable?
No, abortion is wrong.
But it's the same fundamental question of if you knew that abortion would save 1 million people in the future, would you abort 1,000 now?
That question's ridiculous.
Not really. You asked me whether I would kill Hitler's mother. It's the same question. It's, how do they say, proactive abortion.
50 million Americans have been aborted since Roe v. Wade. So, no, I would never try and justify abortion. So is rape wrong? Would you put your finger on that and say, yeah, that's wrong? Would you just say, oh, it could be okay for the good of society?
The rape is... What we're doing is we're starting on the things that... murder is the one that is absolutely necessary. You can't kill more people than you produce, otherwise you don't have a species.
No, you're talking about expediency. I'm talking about morality.
Well, I mean, but that's a functional... it's a functional morality.
Are you a machine or a human being? Come on, I want to open I want your conscience to do some work here.
Are you a machine?
Well, you tell me. Is murder wrong? Is rape wrong?
I can tell you that the reason you're breathing is because you are a machine. Right? The reason you eat...
But I have a soul, I have a life, I have a morality, I have a conscience.
But you admit that there are, or we agree that there are some levels of you that are a machine.
I am a machine, but I've got the life of God in me. I'm a soul. I know right from wrong. I know that rape is wrong. I know that murder is wrong. I'm not afraid to say they're wrong. There's moral absolutes. Is lying wrong?
Lying, we wouldn't have language. We covered this on the last one, I think. We wouldn't have language.
Is stealing wrong?
Stealing is an interesting one. Now you're getting into the interesting stuff because it's very... Why would God want us to have property? I mean, if you don't have property, the concept that people can own things, then how can you have theft? You know, so a lot of these Indian cultures, they don't have this concept of property. You don't have the concept of theft. And
you mean communism?
No. The small tribal cultures, there is no real point in individuals having things. They belong to the tribe, so to speak. This is a long time before anyone's gotten into organizing bigger societies. It's not so much... I guess it's a sort of functional communism, but...
How can we go off on a rabbit trail of Indians when I ask if lying is wrong? Come on, is lying wrong?
No, what we're doing...
Stealing is wrong.
But if I were to ask you, is chopping your children's arms off wrong?
Yes.
How did you get that?
I've got an inbuilt knowledge of right and wrong given by God. Conscience means with knowledge. I know it's wrong to bring harm to any other human being.
But that's not what it says in the Bible.
Okay. Where am I told to chop off my kids' arms and legs?
Where are you There are 10 commandments in the Bible. The ones that you've hit so far are the ones which are requirements for a stable species. So you don't kill, you can get that out of piranhas.
No, they're not. No, they're a knowledge of right and wrong to show us God's righteousness, so we can see His need of forgiveness. They're not a standard for smooth society.
Why would God care about property? I mean, what interest does God have whether you own anything, the camera, the clothes? Why should God care about property?
Because it's only right. If you earn something, it's yours.
But that's a societal thing. There are societies that function perfectly happily. Not big societies, admittedly, but that function perfectly happy without the concept of property. Okay. Are those ungodly societies? They seem perfectly happy.
So, is lying and stealing wrong?
Lying is a requirement of language, right? If you lie to people...
Oh, right? Stop it.
They are. You can't...
How can you build any relationship on lying?
Exactly, right. So, if you're going to interact with others, if you're on your own, there is no one to lie to. It's tautological that if you're going to lie, you must be part of a society. You must be interacting with at least one other person. So, these are rules that govern the behavior within a species, within a society, particularly, right? So if you actually come down the level, is there, if absolute morality exists, what is the right color for the wheel?
That's nothing to do with morality.
You said there's an absolute morality. If there's an absolute morality, there must be an absolute right choice for everything. I mean,
okay, let me.
You start with the very easy ones of killing, lying, and.
It weren't that easy for you because you don't know.
No, I mean, for me...
You're like Quicksilver. You know what Quicksilver does? You got to pick it up. It just runs away from you. I want you to make it a choice for me. Look, it's 1943.
Wow.
A German officer has got a gun pointed at your head. You want you to get into a bulldozer and drive it forward. Mm-hmm. In front of the bulldozer is a pit. Excuse me. In front of the bulldozer is a pit with 300 Jews in it. They've just been shot. Some of them are still alive. He wants you to bury them alive. If you don't do what he says, he's going to shoot you to death and do it himself. Would you drive the bulldozer forward? And don't say I don't know.
In that case, I mean, it really is. There are people who did this. There are people who...
I know, that's why I'm asking.
There are people who did what they were told, and this goes very much back to how people respond to.
So what would you do
if it were me? If I had the brain that I have at present, I'm just teleported instantly back there, I'd give him the finger and tell him to go fuck himself.
Can't say that. Put it another way.
I would give him the finger.
No, you can't say that either. Just say I would say no and I'd die.
Yeah, there are worse things than death,
So you wouldn't do it?
No.
Because you value human life?
No, because ultimately malevolent social structures like the Nazis propagated, for the large part, on complicity. Right? The majority.
Could you put that in English for us peasants?
Sorry. People following orders is what made the Nazis.
So you wouldn't do it to save the Jews, you'd do it because you just don't like the way the Nazis do things?
Well, I mean, if the Nazis weren't killing the Jews, there wouldn't really be any point in the question,
So you value human life at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Life is kind of pleasant,
Okay, so you value human life. So how do you feel about abortion?